What a great guest we have today. It's actually Dr. David Brownstein, and he is back on the Meehan Mission podcast. You all, this man is so knowledgeable and he is so great, and we just have a good time today. We talk about hormones, synthetic hormones. What's that? Bioidentical hormones. What's happened to lab levels, and why is everyone's hormone just declining? I mean, what's going on around here? I think somebody might be after us. I'm not sure. We also talk about vaccinations and their effects on hormones. We talk about liability when it comes to the pesticide companies. Did you know that the pesticide companies are trying to be free from liability for causing things like cancer? It's absolutely ridiculous. Why can't they just make a safer product? Hey everyone, it's Cathy Meehan again with the Meehan Mission podcast, and everybody loved him, and we had so much more to talk about. So, Dr. David Brownstein, thank you for joining us again. And last time we talked about things like, and I want to let you know that everybody in my office took off with half of my books that I have of yours, and I just got them back. But the salt book, we touched on iodines. Now, what we didn't touch on was the viruses, and so we could talk about that, but I wanted to talk to you also about hormones, and somebody still has that book, and I haven't found it yet. So I'm just waiting for them to bring that back. But so one of the things it was a friend of mine, and I was talking to him, and he goes to a mainstream allopathic doctor because he pays his insurance. It's the insurance model. And we were just kind of talking health. So this guy doesn't really practice natural, holistic medicine. Like I said, he's kind of trapped in that old world. And I brought up hormones, and he said, oh, my doctor said, absolutely, I do not need to be on hormone replacement therapy. And he's like in his mid 60s. The doctor also suggested that he go on a statin. And my point was, I've always, and Jim was always kind of like, just about every male over the age of 40 probably needs some help with hormone replacement therapy or supplements or, diet or something like that. And so I wanted your take on, the real difference between the allopathic doctors that why are they against hormones?
Well, they also seem to be against finding a cure for autism these days.
Yeah.
So they're against a lot of things, and many of it I don't understand. I mean, part of the reason in regards to bioidentical natural hormones is that we have no training in that in medical school. I mean, nothing.
Right.
And when I became involved in this 35 years ago, about 1990, I don't know, 1991 or so. So what is that? 34 years ago. Um, I didn't know what it was. And I remember vividly that I decided that I wanted to do holistic medicine. I didn't really know what it was, and decided I was going to do it. And I started reading, one book after another book and articles after articles and going to conferences. And, I think I talked to you the last time about, how I became involved in this was treating my
Mhm.
dad with severe heart disease and high cholesterol and high blood sugar and things. And one of the first things I put my dad on was bioidentical testosterone therapy. And so I started when I saw the changes in my dad and how his diabetes got better and his blood pressure got better and his ulcer, on his foot got better with it, that I wanted to learn more about hormones and natural hormones. And so word got around in 1991 in Detroit that there was a MD who was open to holistic medicine. So I got a call from a chiropractor in the area, and she asked me, "Do you use natural progesterone?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she goes, "Well, where do you get it from?" I said, "Well, I get Provera from the pharmacy." And there was a pause, and she goes, "Well, that's not natural progesterone." And I was I was a little shaken. I was a little embarrassed, and I didn't know the difference. And so I went to work and I started researching them. And then as I learned about one hormone, I would start to try it on my patients, those who I thought would benefit from it. And, it was like a snowball effect, or a synergistic effect where when I added a hormone to another hormone, bioidentical hormone therapy to another bioidentical hormone therapy, 1+1 would equal 3 or 4 in clinical efficacy. And there were virtually no side effects. People felt better. Their aging markers got better. Their inflammatory markers got better. Their brain got better. Their muscle aches and pains got better. They looked younger. They were happy. I was happy. And, I started doing it. And I wrote my first book, The Miracle of Natural Hormones. And back then, and I've updated it since then. But so, here I was newly out of residency. I really didn't have a clue back then. There was a difference between progesterone and Provera. Provera is a synthetic form of progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
It's an altered molecule. It's a foreign substance for the body. It's associated with horrible side effects, such as non-reversible osteoporosis with one dose of the drug, but diabetes and arthritis and osteoporosis and blood clots and things, and cancer, increased risk of cancer is associated with it as well. And
Right.
bioidentical natural progesterone has none of those. And the only difference between the two is since Big Pharma can't patent bioidentical natural progesterone, it changed the structure of it and put a carboxyl group on the molecule, which is a little tiny side chain. And because that's not found in nature, that's a patentable substance. It's a foreign substance. The problem is that little carboxyl group changes the whole structure of the progesterone molecule. So when that foreign source of progesterone binds to the progesterone receptor, our body doesn't know what to do with it. It's never seen it before. It doesn't have detoxification mechanisms for it. So when these synthetic hormones and these synthetic hormone analogs bind to our receptors, they stimulate these receptors for much longer periods of time than our own hormones, and they lead to side effects. And
and bad side effects.
You could take every hormone and talk about that same subject. So one of the reticence the physicians have about using it is they weren't taught it, they weren't trained in it, and I don't think every doctor, but a lot of doctors stop their education at the end of their training, and they go to practice medicine for what they were trained. And they don't really do much different over the next few decades. And they might alter things a little bit as a new drug comes out, but they basically keep the same structure that they were taught, and and they fall behind the times. And
they do.
I've never understood why doctors don't have a curiosity for things.
Because they're not critical thinkers. And I'm just going to go back. I was a pharmaceutical rep, and back in the day, I was a pharmaceutical rep. I always tell, I got my PhD, put hubby through. So he went through, finished his undergraduate med school and residency while I was a pharmaceutical rep. But you're right. There are no pharmaceutical reps for bioidentical hormones because you can't patent them. You don't have a huge pharmaceutical company behind you, as opposed to the synthetic hormones that they had, which we know that back in the Women's Health Initiative when they were studying the women's hormones. And I guess that's where they got the bad rap of the synthetic hormones causing cancers and everything else. And so physicians just weren't even going to touch hormones. But then we have people like you who are going to do their own searching and digging into what are the alternatives, which are the natural ones. But you're right. It's the physicians, if they don't have a drug rep telling them about a new product or something like that, there's too few of them out there actually digging into the information themselves.
Drug reps used to come to me back in the day. I was a conventional doctor, started off that way, and I would learn about the new drugs from the drug rep. They were often young and female and nice looking, and they were very smart and very coached on how to talk to us. And
I was a trainer. I coached them.
And let me tell you, their marketing was unbelievable. They'd have their handy graphs and things real quick and talk very simply. Since we're busy, we just want the facts.
Yes.
And they would tell us how to prescribe it, and I would usually take their little handout and I'd start prescribing it that
Yeah.
afternoon. And
Yeah.
you're right. There's no handout. There's no one coming to tell me about vitamin C. There's no one coming to tell me about natural
Mm.
progesterone,
No.
natural estrogen, or natural
Vitamin
testosterone.
D. Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
got to learn it on your own. And
Hmm.
that's part of the reason why there's so few holistic doctors out there, because it takes a lot of effort.
It
And
does.
um,
Yeah.
you know, I said 30 years ago when I left the conventional practice I was in, I told the partners who I was negotiating a buy-in at that time, I said, I need to leave. And they said, why? And I said, I want to practice holistic medicine. And they said, what's that? And I said, I don't really know, but I know I'm going to figure it out. And
Right.
I'm 30 years later, 30, actually more than 35 years later, I'm still figuring it out,
Mm.
still going to conferences, still reading. I come home from work. I don't flip on the TV. I'm usually looking through articles and looking through,
Articles and podcasts, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Articles and podcasts. No, I get that. Well, so I want to talk about ladies and hormones since I'm a lady. And I've been doing bioidentical hormones for quite a while, but I since I've been doing that, I just tell people I didn't even know I needed hormones. And it's kind of a funny story because I was married to Jim, who was like really big into bioidentical hormones, and I just kept telling him, I was like, I'm fine. I don't need anything. I'm fine. And
Are you sure you're not my wife over here?
I mean, I could be. I mean, we tend to think we are fine, right? And it was interesting because I was like, and then I started working for him in the clinic, and I was like, well, I guess I better start hormones, since I'm going to be in the clinic and people are going to be calling me. And it was really interesting because just over the few weeks and months, I was like, oh my gosh, my skin is so much softer. I was like, and I'm not falling asleep like at, 7:30 at night, and my hair is getting thicker and I have more energy. So it was kind of like, I don't know, I guess maybe like the lights are dimming. Maybe if you've ever heard that, the lights are dimming, and so you don't really know that the lights are dimming. And then somebody turns on the light switch and you're like, wow, life is bright. And so it's like, I would assume that your patients probably maybe experience some of that same thing. But it's like, I am so glad that I finally did it because I didn't know what I was missing. Does
You
that make
know,
sense? Yeah.
oh yeah. I see the same thing in my practice every day.
Yeah.
Not only just women. Um, I'm feeling like a male today, so I'm identifying as a male. And
Yes.
um, um, men need their hormone replacement too. And
Hmm.
um, I am I feel better at this stage of my life than I did when I was 18. I get less colds. I
Hmm.
recover from them quicker. I play rigorous tennis 4 days a week. I have full-time practice. I work out in the morning and I work out when I get home. And I'm still writing, newsletters and books and things.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
there's no way, there's no way I could be doing this without, using natural therapies like bioidentical
Mhm.
hormones and, you know,
Right.
getting my hormones balanced and my adrenal hormones and, testosterone included in there has made a huge difference in how I recover from tennis, how I feel, how my
Mhm.
brain works. And my female patients tell me the same thing. Their brain fog, their anxiety,
Right. Brain fog.
um,
That was another one. Yeah.
goes away.
Hmm.
Besides the physical features, which they like, the hair, skin, and nails get better,
Yes.
and you know, muscle tone's better. I mean, it's really it's an amazing thing when you take it yourself, and it's an amazing thing as a doctor to prescribe to my patients. Hear the responses they're getting, and you
Hmm.
know, I wrote this in my hormone book. I don't understand why more doctors aren't doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just you can see the levels decline as they get older, and really over the years because of our toxicity exposures, the levels have declined really
Mm.
fast. The last 10 or
Yes.
15 years, well, much
All the
faster now
endocrine
than they were,
disruptors.
and people are suffering more now.
Yeah. Right. Well, actually, really, I remember Jimmy used to talk about lab values. That yes, you want to look at lab values, but really, those are like really almost kind of like the sick people, and that range is not optimal for most people. In today's men's levels seem to be just dropping over time, what they're
Like a
calling
rock,
average. Yeah.
dropping like a rock. It's really sad, and
Hmm.
it's boy, we got a mess on our hands. And
Yeah.
and it's just part of it is, big part of it is the environmental exposure to these xenoestrogens, these estrogen-like mimics,
Mm.
and plastics and pesticides and insecticides and all over the place. And so it's stimulating estrogen receptors, and not only stimulating them, but binding to them tightly and lasting a long
Mm.
time. And, men, we're getting fatter, just like, they give these estrogens to animals to fatten them up before slaughter. They're fattening us up. And we have,
Yeah.
over 70% of Americans are obese. What's the number? 40, over 40% I'm sorry, over 70% are overweight and over 40% are obese.
Isn't that just
Terrible. We got 20% of our
horrible?
kids. Uh,
Yeah.
I, what's the number for kids? I think it's 20% are obese in our kids, or
Yeah. That's
some huge
absolutely,
number like that. It's terrible.
it's unacceptable. I mean,
It
it
is
really is.
unacceptable.
I mean, it's really unacceptable. Well, I know, like, I don't, you don't really see pediatrics, but I've always um, thought that probably some of the vaccinations really affect hormone levels of our children, as much as they are disruptive to absolutely everything. Um, that, I would love to see studies on that. And maybe, we can get RFK to do some studies on what the childhood vaccination schedule does for
Studies are
children's
coming. That's
hormones.
coming quickly now.
Yeah. I mean, that's I've always thought that, and I really think that we're going to see a lot of damage that's actually resulted from the childhood vaccination schedule. So I'm anxious to see that. I think, I'm definitely, because, that's very important to me, our children, and just the obesity levels, and just I think I had number one, in when I was growing up, I didn't have any obese kids in my class, and I think I had one girl that was diabetic. Yeah, and that was,
If you look at old pictures when we
yeah.
were in elementary school,
Hmm.
it looks like a different human species in those pictures. And
Yeah.
even high school, my high school pictures, once in a while I pull the albums out. Um,
Right.
it looks like a different culture, different species. I mean, we're just not the same. And either we get our act in gear and we adopt
Hmm.
more holistic lifestyles, or nothing else is going to matter. Our country's going to collapse under the economic weight of the chronic medical conditions that are, sapping
Hmm.
us of our energy, sapping of us of our money, and we're just going to collapse as a country. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I think if we don't make a change, I'm going to see it somewhere in my lifetime. It's just we're too sick.
Yeah, we are too sick. I just remembered in my head that we had a young male patient. He was still in high school, and he was like a champion wrestler. And we had been seeing him, and then I guess his hormone level was around, like, around 700-ish. And then he got the COVID vaccine. And the next time Jim tested his hormone level, it was less than 200 for testosterone. And that was the COVID vaccine. And so, I can only imagine how many people now that have gotten vaccinated with that might be going around with, low hormones, and most of the allopathic doctors probably aren't even checking that.
We've been checking, we've seen the same thing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's just, hopefully we can make some change really fast around here. As far as, yeah.
Agree.
I am hopeful, though. I mean, if you've heard, getting food dyes out. I mean, we do have to take these little baby steps, right? I guess we can't just, I would like to change the world by tomorrow, but as long
You
as we're
know,
doing these baby steps.
as um, as I mentioned, hitting a few singles is okay before you
Hmm.
go for the home run there, and the home run's coming.
Yeah.
And I'm 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 happy with the progress that's being made right now, and now we've got a good team in place, and now we can start to get the data out there, get the studies out there,
Hmm.
and start debating this and talking about it. And you know, the we want to find what's causing autism, and half the country screaming that what are we doing that for? Are you out of your mind? Of course, should be finding not only what's causing autism, how about
Yeah.
what's causing heart disease, what's causing cancer? We should be
Yes.
searching for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody should be complaining about any of that.
I know why that again kind of blows my mind. Why would anybody want to complain about trying to get to the root cause of something? I don't know, because we're going to find it. We're going to find what that root cause is. Which I just again, what about pesticides and herbicides and the glyphosate and everything? Is your state, are you familiar with any of the legislation that these, big companies are trying to push through? They're trying to be exempt from liability for any damages caused by, like, for example, Roundup or something like that. Now, in Oklahoma, the bill was defeated in the House, and then I think it's still pending in the Senate. But I know, for example, in the state of Georgia, I was speaking to someone the other day, and it passed in both the House and the Senate. I mean, I don't understand that one either. To get rid of a product liability.
Look at the mess we're in because of vaccine liability, and we've got
Yeah.
this
Hmm.
mess of chronic illness in our children, and we don't have any answers, and things
Right.
just move on without anyone curious and anyone asking questions or anyone saying we should have a Manhattan Project to figure out why our
Hmm.
kids are so sick, or
Right.
why our adults are so sick, for that matter. And that's what happens when you give product liability. The manufacturers don't have any interest in um, um,
Better
making the
products.
product safer, making the
Yeah.
product better. Because what do they want to change it for? They already got it approved, and they're making money on it, and no one can sue them. I mean,
I know.
you might make a. Of course, this will age me, but I'm sure you remember the Ford Pintos back in the '70s
Yes.
and '80s that were exploding when they were hit from behind. We'd
Yes.
have Ford Pintos all on the road still if there was no liability and no one
Hmm.
suing the automakers for making a defective car that shouldn't have. The gas tank
The
shouldn't have been
tank.
placed where it
Right.
was in that car,
Hmm.
and um, they changed it because of product liability, and
Yeah.
the legal system. And as long as we let vaccine manufacturers have a free way, then we're going to get what we pay
Mm.
for.
Right. It's absolutely again insane. I think just being in this community that we're in, when we see this side of all the corruption and all the money, and I'm all for capitalism and all of those things, but there is a point where when you really take advantage of people, and then again, hopefully, we vote with our dollars, but the censorship and everything else has just been so difficult to overcome really until lately. We've, gotten some strides in there, but I remember, we lost our Twitter, we lost Facebook for a while when we were talking about vaccines and COVID and everything like that. And that was, we got everything back, but
Seems like a lifetime ago now, but it really is not that long ago.
it
And
wasn't that long ago.
but
Yeah.
boy, it seems like a lifetime ago. And those the those rights are quick. We're quick to lose them. It's hard to get them back. And either we pay attention and we make our wishes known to our people who are supposed to be representing us, and or we're going to be right back in that same boat again. But hopefully, we pass that. We won't come back to those times.
Yeah. Do you find, probably not your patient population, but um, are people really still scared of the measles and, bird flu and all of these things? I mean, my community, they're kind of like all pshaw,
You
it's
know,
like,
I've been educating, working for and educating my patients for
Mhm.
3.5 decades, and during COVID, I would estimate about 10% of my patients got vaccinated.
Mhm.
Um, Most of those 10% patients were forced to either via work or
Work.
family pressures.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and no, I don't, I didn't, I really didn't I don't hear from my patients concerns with that stuff.
Hmm.
They're look, if we have an immune system for a reason, the immune system's
Yeah.
there to get us through these illnesses, and otherwise it
Hmm.
wouldn't exist as a species. And
Hmm.
if we can support it, if we not let it get too toxic, it can do pretty wonderful things. I mean, whoever designed us pretty darn well, and gave us the blueprint to. And if we look at the blueprint and we look at what builds it up and supports it versus what takes it down and trashes it, we can make
Right.
better decisions on our health. And so I think we can do better, and I think we will do better as we move on.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I mean, and I think, it begins with the babies. I mean, we have to understand that they're born perfect. And the fact that, we inject them with something
Well,
when
let's take
they're,
it a step
yeah.
previous to that. It begins with the women before they become
Oh,
pregnant, because
yeah, heavens.
now we're giving
Yeah,
pregnant women, I believe it's 5 vaccines while they're
yeah,
pregnant.
absolutely not. Yeah, the DTaP is there. I know COVID vaccine. That is just a flu vaccine. I mean, thank goodness. I guess the Cleveland study came out and finally said that the flu vaccine just, hopefully people are going to read that and realize that you're actually going to get, we've been spouting that for a long time, that you're actually setting yourself up for another virus or something if you do
Yep.
get a flu shot, because you just weakened your immune system. It's We got a lot of educating to do, Dr. Brownstein. I'm so glad that you are available.
Well, you know what? We'll do it, and patients are paying attention now. And
Yeah.
the cool thing with the whole COVID crisis was, and I said it from the beginning, man. When they rolled that vaccine out in December of 2020,
Hmm.
I wrote an article and I said, Big Pharma has overstepped, and they're making a big mistake. They had
Hmm.
liability-free vaccines. They had 95+% of children across the United States getting all these, following the
Yeah.
CDC schedule
Following.
without question. There was really, there was not much, um, there was not much noise made about that schedule, except for a few of us holistic doctors who were saying, "Hey, it's too many, and it's too
Right.
early into the kids, and too many adjuvants and things like that." But they had a cash cow going, and I said when that COVID vaccine rolled out, and they were going to mandate it, this is it. Um, I saw that the vaccine was ineffective in the first Pfizer study that came out, and I saw the side effects with it. I said, This is going to harm a lot of people.
Hmm.
People are going to get sick from it, and now they're going to start questioning every vaccine that's out there going forward, and that's
Yeah.
what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
And when the true information comes out, which it's coming, Big Pharma's going to have to figure it out, because they really made a big mistake with
Right.
the mandate.
Yeah, and I think so, the COVID vaccine is on the childhood vaccine schedule at 6 months, which
We're the only
is
Western country that does that.
absolutely ludicrous. And at 6 months, and then the next dose 4 weeks later. And then if the child is immunocompromised, they want to give you 3 doses, which to me, I'm like, anyway, I'm not a doctor, so I'm just a mom. So it's like, but I do think that there is enough talk that hopefully that will be one of the first steps, is taking the COVID vaccine off of the childhood vaccine schedule, which, they really are on there to protect from liability for the pharmaceutical companies. Once you get on the childhood schedule, then you release, the liability issue. So that's why I think it got put on there in the first place. But so I'm hoping that that'll come off. So,
It's
but
coming. I
it's
believe
coming.
that's coming.
That what is there, like, of all the things that need to be done to improve our healthcare and the health of the children or the adults? Do you see one thing that should be done first, or any order, or?
I mean, the first thing is,
Mhm.
I talk to my patients about this all the time. You got to do the basics.
Mhm.
You know, you could search for the sexy herb, the sexy peptide, the sexy vitamin, or whatever.
Mhm.
They usually don't exist. But either you put good food into our body,
Mhm.
or you're fighting against the wind, and so the first step is to make our food supply better and get the
Yes.
crap out of our diet. And
Mhm.
I'm tired of the poison in our food supply, tired of the poison we're feeding our kids, tired of the poison we're feeding ourselves, and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
um,
And what we're feeding, what we eat.
the food dyes are just one thing that
Yeah.
are a
Yeah.
lot of them are petroleum based, that have been banned in
Mhm.
Europe, and they're still here. How do
Right.
we allow this, and how did this happen?
Hmm.
And this whole story needs to be brought out so people can see it. And it's hard to trust anything these days,
Hmm.
and you need to find the information. And we need our government is there to try and protect us from this stuff, yet they haven't protected us. They've
No.
made it worse. They've allowed it to get in our food supply, and it's been a corrupt system for too long. And the squawking right now is because these corrupt people who are being fired from CDC, FDA, and HHS are
Mm.
winding up a storm, but they have failed in their jobs miserably,
Yeah.
and they deserve to be more than just fired. But
Mm.
that's the squawking and whining we're hearing these days. But that's all coming to an end. The studies are coming out. When a
Yeah.
mother who has a baby learns that she was this Fruit Loops was made with oil,
Yeah.
petroleum derivatives to
Ugh.
make it redder or bluer or greener or something like
Yeah.
that. I assume she's not going to be too happy with that, and she's going to say, "How come kids in Europe weren't fed this stuff? And
Yeah.
why are our
And then
kids
she'll
fatter
start
than
reading
kids everywhere
labels.
else?"
Maybe that'll make her start reading labels to see what other kind of crap is in the other food that they're eating.
Yep.
Just start reading the labels. Well, what we like to do is, and I'm not sure how popular they are in Michigan, but what about like farmers markets? We like to have people go to, number one, you're buying local, and most of those are going to be organic. And and I'm just going to, we have an organic farm that I live on. We do regenerative farming for pork. So we do, my daughter actually is the heartbeat of that. So she runs that. But we really try to get people to go out and buy local and support your local farmers. And, they're not using glyphosate. I can tell you that. And
Knowing a farmer who's raising the animals and growing the crops correctly
mhm, yeah.
can be a big boon to anyone's health, and
Hmm.
we need to support those people. And we need to we need our government to just acknowledge that this is a better way to make our food,
Yes.
and to not allow the crap that's in there, in the future in there. And then,
Hmm.
once we do that, then we'll start seeing the obesity epidemic, the chronic disease epidemic, the cancer epidemic start to recede.
Right, right. I'm ready for that. I am. Well, Dr. Brownstein, I have taken up your time and I appreciate you so much because what you do is so important. And I just hope that people realize that, whenever they might have thought you were crazy, you're not. You are not. You are such on the right track. And I am sure that your patients love you. I am sure that they do. And I guess your daughters are on the same path as you. So you're out there, you can even multiply that education out for everyone else. That's got to make you happy.
It's an honor to do what I do. I consider it a privilege.
Hmm.
I'm, you know, blessed, whatever the words are. I'm practicing with my two doctor daughters, and we're if you heard in the background, we have first grandchild who's here right now, and so
Oh,
we're we're walking the walk and we're talking the talk, and we you can raise a healthy child,
yes.
um, and you can raise a healthy child that doesn't get sick all the time, doesn't need
Hmm.
antibiotics all the time.
Hmm.
And I have two daughters, they're 30 and 31. They have been through one course of antibiotics, one of them, one course in college.
Yeah.
That's been it. They're
Great.
not on psychotropic medications.
Hmm.
They're, my daughter Haley just had the baby and have a healthy
With no
baby, and
shots, I bet.
she made her decisions with that, and
Yeah.
she made the right decisions with that, and
Yeah.
you
Did
know
she researched
it can be
probably.
done.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like my grandkids, no vaccines for my grandkids. And, they're rolling in mud and healthy as all get out. Yeah,
Great.
that is great. Well, thank you for your time. I
Thank you for
appreciate you
having
so
me.
much. I'll be happy to have you again. Okay.
Let's do it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.